Hey there, friends. Hardly a day goes by where us normal, everyday old peasants are reminded that there are two sets of rules. There's double standards for us as opposed to the elite out there. Today I'm going to tell you a story about a perfect example of that happening once again. First, guys, go check out my friends Attorneys on Retainer. These guys are not an insurance company as far as carry insurance for your firearm. These are legitimate attorneys who are just what they say. They're on retainer. These guys are ready to answer your call. When you do call, there is an on-call attorney who will take your call. So in the event you have to use your firearm, you are not dancing around with some $12 an hour phone clerk who doesn't know anything about law and doesn't know what it takes to protect you. You will be met with an attorney on the other line. Sign up now with my friends Attorneys on Retainer for optimum protection, and in the unlikely event you have to draw your carry firearm in self-defense, use my code FTATF and receive $50 off your individual sign-up fee. That's Attorneys on Retainer. You guys remember the really weird story, I think it was a couple of months or a couple of weeks or so, after Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband, got in a DUI accident and got out of that miraculously, right? Where could be his lover. But somebody, this guy that just got sentenced, broke into his home. This is a story that Pelosi gave, right, of what took place in the home. Obviously, we've seen the video of what happened on the outside of the home where the guy was breaking in. But the lover's spat appeared to take place inside the house. And the guy who attacked Paul Pelosi in front of law enforcement just got a life sentence for this.
Life in prison without the possibility of parole. That is the state sentence for David DePape, the man convicted of breaking into former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's house and attacking her husband, Paul Pelosi, with a hammer. But it's what happened before he was sentenced that's creating buzz tonight. During today's sentencing hearing, DePape didn't offer any apology and instead spent nearly 45 minutes outlining conspiracy theories. Here's NBC Bay Area's Sergio Quintana in San Francisco.
The facts in this case and the earlier federal case against David DePape were never really in dispute. Some of the most graphic evidence was the police body camera video of DePape striking Pelosi with a hammer, seconds after officers responded to a 911 call for help. The judge imposed a sentence of life without the possibility of parole for the most serious charge DePape was convicted of, aggravated kidnapping, and 8 years for the other 4 charges.
This was like really a tragic end to a tragic story. I mean, all of you who were in the courtroom and listened to Mr. DePape's statement saw that, quite frankly, he's not a well man.
In court, David DePape spoke for more than 45 minutes about conspiracy theories, suggesting the September 11th attacks were an inside job and calling his wife a body double. He actually had more to say, but the judge cut his comments short and noted that the defendant did not express any remorse for attacking Paul Pelosi, something he did do during the federal sentencing. It's worth noting that DePape's attorneys did not argue for an insanity defense in this case.
Certain things are relevant and you are able to argue, and certain things I can't. He has some decision in what sort of defense gets run, and that defense, insanity defense, just wasn't applicable here.
DePape's public defender says they will likely be filing an appeal on this conviction. District Attorney Brooke Jenkins says this sentence shows there will be serious consequences for people who use violence to try and intimidate public officials and their families.
I think it gives, hopefully, not only the Pelosi family solace, but our country solace that nothing like this will be taken lightly.
This sentence of life without the possibility of parole comes exactly 2 years and a day after David DePape broke into the Pelosi house and attacked Paul Pelosi. In court, Christine Pelosi, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, and Paul Pelosi's daughter read a statement on Paul's behalf, saying he's still suffering through long-term effects of his injuries. He asked the judge to impose the strictest sentence possible.
Well, guess what? I'm still suffering the long-term effects of Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. And now we see another double standard. Wait a minute. Now, granted, Paul Pelosi is not going to tell Nancy the true story of what happened. So I understand why we go to court and we're dealing with this, right? In fact, the guy in court even admitted that he did break into the house. Now, again, the question that I have is, how do these people know each other? When somebody breaks into your house, it's a little weird that they let you call 911. It's a little weird that they let you answer the door. And it's a little weird that they address the cops at the door with you holding what may be a weapon, what turned out to be a weapon, obviously. All that's kind of weird. That's just not how things go down when somebody breaks into a home and looks to hurt somebody or take somebody hostage. In fact, the story was that the guy broke in looking for Nancy. Well, clearly Nancy wasn't there. So what was the story at that point? Just a whole lot of unanswered questions. And again, you can believe that if this was Paul Pelosi's boy toy, he ain't telling Nancy about that. Even though they live in San Francisco and even though it's acceptable, trust me when I tell you the whole rules for thee thing, they may say it's okay for every other person out there to have same-sex sex and fornication. I always love saying that word, fornication. They may act like, because politically it makes sense for them to act like it, but trust me, them old school people, they're 84 years old. Pelosi, both Pelosi's, Paul and Nancy. They ain't down with that kind of stuff. So if Paul Pelosi is doing his little thing with his little boy toy here, trust me, he's not telling Nancy the full truth. So Nancy is having the state of California throw the full weight of the law at this guy. Now, you heard it in the report. There were two different trials that took place. One was a federal trial. The federal trial, they gave the man 30 years, which is still, I mean, seriously, guys, let's be honest here. How many times do we hear about other people mowing each other down on the street, literally taking human lives, and they get out in 2 months on good behavior? Federal government gives this guy first 30 years. But that's not good enough, right? The overcompensation of the 30 years was bad enough. Enter the state, where Nancy Pelosi has full control over the Attorney General, everybody there. Life in prison for hitting a man in the head with a hammer and not killing him. In fact, not even rendering him helpless or useless, right? This guy is still day trading and making gazillions of dollars off of the insider trading knowledge that Nancy Pelosi has. Yet, they put his boyfriend, and I'm saying that, it's probably not fair for me to say that because I don't know that for sure. I just know that we're not getting all the answers, and this is clearly one that needs to be answered because this seems very fake to me. The storyline there does not line up. This is not how burglaries or attempted kidnappings go, especially whenever the target of the kidnapping is not in the home. So I do believe these two people, my opinion, that's just my opinion. This is not a news channel. This is an opinion channel. Legally on America is not news. I give my opinion, and I'm giving it to you. I think these two people knew each other. And I think they knew each other in the way that you're not supposed to know each other if you're a Christian sinner or right-leaning person. I'm not passing judgment. I know people who are gay, and I got no problem with that. What I'm telling you is I don't think Nancy was okay with that. So we're never going to get the full story because Paul Pelosi is going to stick to whatever story he's got, right? In fact, I got hit in the head. He even claims that he woke up later on or something. Like, trust me, you can best believe he's got that little bit of short-term memory. You know, Nancy, I don't even remember what happened when the guy got in. Next thing I know, I'm laying on the floor. You know, I didn't even know how we got here. So the only proof that we have is the video that we see the guy breaking in and the video from the law enforcement officers who were there when the guy wraps Pelosi in the head with the hammer. Big deal here is this is another perfect example of rules for thee, two totally separate sets of rules and laws. This is the same but different as Trump being convicted 34 times for some little petty BS, but they found something and they can make it stick. They have weaponized the court system. I've had people get mad at me before whenever I've said we have a corrupt court system. I'm serious, and that person may still be watching because that person told me how disappointed they were in me that I did not have confidence in the American judicial system. I'm like, hello? I'm conscious. That's why I don't have confidence in the American judicial system. And this is another reason why. not only do they weaponize the court system against somebody like Donald Trump and everybody else, there are dozens and dozens of people that they have put in jail. I'm not counting the January 6 people who have never had charges pressed against them. I'm talking about all Donald Trump's friends that they have put in jail for bogus reasons. This is another example of that. This man only got 30 years because of Nancy Pelosi and who she is. This man only got life in prison because of Nancy Pelosi and who she is. Even though Paul Pelosi is a self-made billionaire based off the inside trading from Nancy Pelosi, which is illegal for all of us to do, but it's legal for servants of the country to do, none of that matters. What matters is Nancy made sure this guy would never see the light of day again and that his story would never get out. What's the best way to control somebody than say that they have a mental problem, which they did during these court proceedings, and then say, we're going to lock them away for life. So now you can medicate them legally. So word never, ever gets out. And it's getting nasty outside, guys. I'm losing my light right here, so I apologize for that. But nevertheless, this is a perfect example. This is no different than the way it was weaponized against Donald Trump, the court system, and the same thing happened against this man to keep him quiet and to keep this information from getting out. Now, real quick, some people may have a question about double jeopardy, right? You had the federal trial that took place where the man DePape got 30 years, and then you had the state trial where the man gets life in prison. It would seem like there's some form of double jeopardy in there. Of course, you guys know double jeopardy is you can't be charged for the same crime. Well, they changed the charges up a little bit. During the federal crime, they charged him, and I don't know the exact specifics, but they charged him for certain crimes. Knowing that double jeopardy could be in play, and knowing that they wanted this man to go away for life because the 30 years was not enough, they didn't want to risk him ever getting out, and Nancy Pelosi wanted them to make sure of that, they dug into it and they found additional charges so that they could bring him to court so that it would not be double jeopardy, because it very well could have been. But they found additional charges outside of that, so charged him for something kind of different, a different type of wording. Initially, he went to trial for the exact same thing. They just found a different type of charge to throw at the guy so that they could get him into the court system once again. And that's how he got his life in prison. So I think that's how they've kind of sidestepped the whole double jeopardy thing. Nancy Pelosi is a vile human being. She is just a horrible person. Whatever bad happens to her, and I'm not threatening her, my FBI agent, whoever you are that's assigned to me, I'm not threatening anybody. What I'm telling you is anything that naturally happens to Nancy Pelosi between now and the end of her miserable life, she has earned. I will consider it karma. Anything bad that happens to her at this point, she made happen to herself based on her vile actions throughout her entire career and the abuse she has had against the American people while she's been in there as Speaker of the House.
I don't understand the point that you're making.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's so horrible.